It's time to find a men's elite time trialling champion for Europe. Welcome. We are, of course, in the Netherlands and in Drenthe, to be precise. And we are, of course, starting by a wildlife park, as you can possibly tell. We're going to be releasing the beasts fairly shortly. But how big are they? That's the big question, especially after the Welter. Slightly hobbled start list, I think it's fair to say, for this one. However, some real star turns as well, not least a starling, well, a tarling. Joshua, he'll be going off last, and boy, will he fly. The question is, will it be to gold and indeed the coveted European jersey? My name is Carlton Kirby, and sitting next to me is Michael Hutchinson, the good doctor. And here is our start list today. Now, as you can see, we're going to be warming up, I think, with Sjoerd, back to the Netherlands. Nicholas Laursen as well, who has gone well in the past. He replaces Johan Pryce Pedersen, actually, along the list. But suddenly, Lampaert were into some big times here. Kwiatkowski possibly a bit tired. However, he's not alone in that regard, but equally there are some spectacular riders who are largely going off late. So those who are going off early, it's a wind advantage for those, we think, as the wind potentially dies later. But the way the weather has been bedeviling us over the last few months, you just never know whether that is indeed going to happen. Stefan Kung, twice a European champion, finishes off kind of the podium as we approach it. Wout van Aert is here, and so is the aforementioned Josh Tarling. So, how will life be? That's the big question. And indeed, how have things been before when it comes to the European Championship? Well, we've been here before. Stefan Bissegger it was that stepped up to the plate. He's our defending champion. It may well have been that last year was not replete with potentially the biggest of names, but then again, Stefan Bissegger was a man on a mission. The question is, can he possibly repeat the feat this time by? As you can see, the podium were all eyes. Kung and Bjerg just edged out. A Swiss 1-2. And Denmark denied. Well,
Stefan Bissegger.
Bissegger's back, so is Bjerg, and indeed our podium will be entertaining us. I am absolutely certain. Possibly something of a surprise last year. Well, I guess we're going to find out this time by. The trouble is, Bissegger has been rather busy with La Vuelta, which only finished 3 days ago. So how will that pan out? Philip Ogana has decided not to come along. Likewise, I'm afraid to tell you, Geraint Thomas as well is missing out. And of course, Remco Evenepoel, who's been extraordinarily busy in every single breakaway he can possibly get. So it's time then to introduce the class act of this afternoon. It's Michael Hutchinson. Good doctor, how's this one going to go? Will the wind indeed play an overly impactful hand?
Yeah. This is a lot about the wind today. It's an awful lot of wind. It's from the southwest, so it's a headwind section to start with. And certainly in the women's race that I was commentating on a little earlier this afternoon, every single rider in the interviews afterwards talked a lot about the wind. It made it really tough. Otherwise, it's a course with some long straight lines in it. It's not technical, as 75% of the corners are in the first 200 meters. After that, long straight, very exposed roads, and the wind has been a major player.
Samir Azani is just about to get off the ramp here for Kosovo in, I must admit, rather fetching kit, I have to say. You're not going to miss him out there. It will give us our first chance, I think, to sort of fly through the course. We've already experienced much of it, of course. We've just had the women's elite runners out there, and it's given us a real taste of what's ahead of us.
Yeah, very much. It's possible to get this badly wrong because you can go out too hard. There's that headwind section in the first few kilometres of the course, which more or less invite you to push as hard as you can. And we saw the winner of the women's race earlier this afternoon really took advantage of the second and third sections of the course, and really kind of pushed it home over that there's a last tailwind section, the long run back into the finish, which is several kilometres of a ruler straight main road with the wind straight behind you, and it's not an easy place to gain time But that's exactly what she did.
Vyacheslav Mukagon of Finland started us off today. He's an addition to our start list that we had at the top. I was actually wondering if he was potentially a forerunner, but 32 taking part today. A few notable absentees as well. We mentioned Remco Evenepoel, and of course Philippe Ogana and Geraint Thomas. It's a strange place for the Europeans to find itself embedded here. The Worlds, of course, moved to August, and as a result, it opened up a space on the calendar which we are filling. And I quite like it at this time of year, I must admit.
Yeah, as a rider, I don't know how I would feel about having the European Championships kind of marooned out here. I think it's been a bigger issue for the women than the men. The men have things like Lombardia. The Vuelta only finished last weekend, so it's not quite as isolated, but it gives it maybe a bit more of an identity in the point where we have the Euros in kind of late August, early September as sort of really just a form finder for the World Championships a week or two later. Maybe it just makes it stand out a bit more.
Well, I hope so, because I'm expecting some great things today, and not least just maybe a couple of surprises. There's a few actually who found themselves well down the pecking order as far as the bookmakers are concerned. Someone like Remy Cavagna, silver medalist in the European Championships a couple of years ago. That was in 2020, actually. He was only 9th in 2022, but he was the runner-up in the Algarve, which, to be honest, it was actually a good form setter for this. And quite a few are here who can, well, go a little bit loud, and that's what we're expecting. This is Pastushenko of the Ukraine. No disrespect, but I'm looking forward to seeing Ivo Oliveira coming off the ramp next. There are a couple of Oliveiras here. Nelson goes later. We don't know what his form is post Vuelta, but let's see.
I was going to say there are a few riders coming straight into this from the Vuelta finishing kind of a couple of days ago, and that could go in a number of directions.
Well, I was wondering about that, Michael, because Stefan Bissiger, for example, he's somebody who really warms up during a Grand Tour.
Yeah.
And I'm actually wondering, some riders carry form out of an event like that.
Yeah, well, it's so short. If it was a week or 10 days, you think, oh well, they'll be in the valley before they come back up again. But if you manage to get kind of the last couple of days at the Vuelta a little bit soft with this in mind, and the final days, the final days racing is never demanding. The penultimate day this year wasn't savage. So you might just about be able to hang on to it. I just think the commissaires don't much fancy Stefan Bissiger because he's the defending champion, but not actually off last. So clearly they've got a bit of a question mark over it.
I feel sorry for him in that regard. Ivo Oliveira, probably not today. It'll be another Oliveira that I'm sure indeed excites us a little bit later on. Vyacheslav Mukagon, very late admission, and we've had a bit of shuffling, haven't we, late on? You get that?
Particularly at the Euros, there are kind of riders who drop in late, and the commissaires are, dare I say it, a little bit more accommodating than they might be at the World Championships. If you kind of want to sign up late, they'll kind of let the team slide you in.
Now, this is Sjoerd Baks of the Netherlands. Now, he was pretty good in Switzerland, actually. So I'm actually just wondering, Tour of Swiss, I'm actually wondering whether he'll find that kind of form today. He's got the old pointillisme design of the Netherlands kit, which thankfully it's now at least being relegated to the breast and indeed the arms, but the sooner we got rid of the dotty design the better, quite frankly. Orange, that's what we want.
Keep it simple.
Yeah. I don't like messing around with national kit, you probably worked that out. Although during 2012 Olympics, I did quite like the green Union Jack. I thought that was quite special. I think Mark Cavendish is still one of his favourite jerseys. How
did you feel about the lime green GB kit from, what was that? Quite nearly 20 years ago. Like, everyone was angry about that.
I'm not surprised. It looked like a highlight pen.
I really liked it. It was literally just me then.
Here we go then. Denmark. This is Nicholas Larsen. Now he replaces Johan Pryce Pedersen. So he's kind of dropped in, and sometimes that works very well for you. You've seen that. Late replacements going well.
Takes the pressure off. You don't spend a week getting nervous about it. You just rock up and go. Particularly this end of the season. You don't want to spend a week being nervous in September.
Well, Dunkirk was very windy, the 4 days, the Quatre Jours. Which was 6 days, I think, this year. But this man was runner-up in the time trial, and so he can go.
And he's got a really big helmet.
He has. He's adopted the sea turtle. Quite a few have. Let's see. This is Malta, David Joseph Bonello. I'd love to see a ride through, actually, with the camera. And looks like we're going to get one. My wish has been granted.
I haven't had as much coverage of the course as I'd like. It's quite hard. I mean, it is all of this is the technical section, because we've got these kind of chicanes we have to get through on a brick road surface, and this is about as tough as it gets, actually. There are a couple of roundabouts later on, but it is the absolute apotheosis of not technical. But it's really exposed. It's really straight. It's a real mind bender of a course, because this is a block headwind he's riding into down here, and he's got several more kilometres of it to go before, and it's only going to get worse. That's a real test of sort of time trial and commitment.
Now, on a looping course such as this, mainly it's sort of half and half, isn't it? Headwind and tailwind.
It's not going to feel like that.
If you are good at hiding, obviously a block headwind there's no hiding place, but anyway, stay with it. If you are good at hiding and mastering yourself in the headwind, and then take advantage of the tailwind, so turning that skill on its head, if you will, could a good time trialist take an advantage of a windy day as opposed to the high wind at the beginning as opposed to the low wind later on?
I have no idea what you just said. I mean, if you're a good time trialist, you have a good aero position, which will help with it. But you've also got the belief that you're doing okay, because that's the other thing. Is you've got to feel that you're riding through treacle in that early section and believing you're all right. That'll help.
If you are a very good time trialist, does it help to actually sort of sit up a bit if you've got a tailwind?
You probably wouldn't. You might as well be aero. I mean, the key to this is pushing a bit harder into the headwind and pulling it back a bit in the tailwind and judging that out and back. That's the tough thing to do.
Just been throwing a few spanners in the works, suggesting that riders in a strong tailwind could turn themselves into a bit of a spinnaker.
Otherwise known as Carlton's alternative theory of physics.
Yes, exactly. And it's been thrown in the bin. Quite rightly by Michael Hutchison.
I was polite.
You were very polite. Those on digital have witnessed and experienced it. We're going to get our first finisher at the moment from Finland in a short while. I don't think he'll be knocking any spots off the times that we're going to be seeing later on, but we're going through rather quickly, I must say. Intervals 2 minutes we are standing at. In fact, I'm just double checking. 1.5. No, not even. Just one.
No, it kind of, they come at you thick and fast when 1 minute intervals. You've barely got time to advance an alternative theory of aerodynamics before the next rider's on the ramp and you have to stop.
There's a cheek about you. Waiting for Michael Asperin. I don't think he's going to pose a headache to anybody further down, but he had a very poor World Championships, unfortunately. So we'll see how number 22, Two Little Ducks, goes in a short while. Michael Kwiatkowski's looked a bit tired of late. Could he turn it back?
I hope so. I mean, he's a quality time trial. He's one of these riders who rarely gets an opportunity to show you what he can do in a time trial. He doesn't ride a lot of time trial championships. At a Grand Tour, he's never focusing on a time trial day, but he can do it. And I'd love to see him getting a chance to to kind of lay it on the line and do a good ride. I suspect, like you say, he probably is carrying too much fatigue at this end of the season, but we'll see.
Here is Michael Asperin off the ramp. It might be that he turns it round. Been a little bit quiet, unlike the cheer here for Yves Lampaert, who's just being called to the start house. Now, he would, I'm sure, the Belgian, prefer this to be a much longer course. There'll be some as well that prefer a more technical course. I'll probably put Nicholas Larson in that vanguard.
I was going to say, yeah, probably, because it's, the things that make this day difficult aren't the things that those kind of particularly sort of World Tour riders are so fluent in. This would be a great course if you were sort of a non-World Tour type rider trying to really produce a good World Championship, because it's the kind of thing you can go and work out on your own. This would reward working on your time trialing rather than just working on the aggressive punchiness of kind of World Tour road racing.
Yves Lampaert, now don't forget he was 4th in 2018, but yeah, let's see, don't forget he beat Evenepoel, I think, in the Worlds in 2021 as well. So
he's a good time trialist. Yeah,
very much so.
You tend to overlook him because, again, a bit like Kwiatkowski, he's not someone who gets to ride that kind of time trial all that often.
OK, I'm putting my neck out here. I'm going to say Yves Lampaard's going to set our benchmark now of those who are already active and on course. No disrespect to those who have already gone or those that will actually start soon. Yeah, I mean, these wide open plains that you get in this part of the world, I mean, you can double your field of vision by standing on the telephone directory. It is incredibly flat.
It's very flat. There's not a lot of hedges. There's not a lot of trees. You know, you can see the bike just flicking around right here. It's not somebody weaving to avoid potholes. It's just the wind catching the front of the bike and just flicking the steering backwards and forwards.
Here's Kwiatkowski. Well, I have to say, if you're just looking at the visage, this is an attacking style rider. And on a short course such as this, 29.8 kilometres, is not the shortest we've had. In the past, we've had between 20, 25 kilometres as well. But he's an attacking style rider, and if he goes all in today, I think he's probably doing the road course on Sunday as well, the men's elite, but that's enough for recovery time, one would have thought. He's the sort of rider that could pull it out of the bag.
I feel like it's not technical enough, it's not punchy enough. There's these big, long sections into a headwind where you're trying to hit a very consistent number and just hover at what you can just about do for several minutes at a time, and it doesn't feel to me like that's quite his style. Could be very wrong, probably am, but...
No.
I think your Yves Lampaard shot was a better one.
Yep, I think so. So I'll hang my hat on that one. We've got Max Walscheid who's coming off the ramp shortly. Now, it was a decent time trialling group in Petit Charon. He finished on the podium then. And once more, this is a man who actually looks like a time trialist. No disrespect to Kwiatkowski, who's just been off the ramp ahead of him. And I kind of shelved that view of what was the ideal form when Remco Evenepoel came along and produced some stunning performances from what appeared to me to be a physical shape that was just too small. But as you well know, Michael, it does not necessarily matter your physical stature, it's what power you generate.
Well, it's part of drag. It's part of CDA. When you work in the CDA in the wind tunnel and you're working the power on the turbo trainer, and that's what this course, you know, with the wind, even with the wind on it, it's still all about that. It's not a course that would suit. I'm expecting it to suit a bigger rider today, to be honest. And one of the things I've made notes of is how much everybody weighs, because I think, you know, you're probably looking at 77, 80 kilo guy would have, you know, the optimum setup, but we'll see.
This man is going off way too early. If you check out what he did in the Giro d'Italia, he's fantastic. And if the wind stays constant, Bruno Amarai could actually make a big noise here. Bruno Amarai, somebody who's been
having a great year.
Yeah, tell us.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, he's off 18 from the end. What's that about?
I think he's rediscovered his time trialling abilities, Bruno Amarai, and he got a great deal of respect from everybody, including the bookmakers at the beginning of the day. So let's see. Meanwhile, Ryan Taramay, to be honest, he's not what he was.
That's a long time since we've seen him riding a championship time trial as well. I reckon the Euros in 2016, which is the first time they ran the Euros as an elite event, I think that's the last championship TT we've seen him at.
I'm prepared to forgive him quite a bit because I absolutely love the kit.
Yeah, it's got a lot of vowels in his name as well.
Yeah, that that is true. Gosh, I'd never thought about it. 4 A's and an E. There we go.
No, I've been struggling to see him on the podium today, but
yes,
we might be wrong. We usually are.
Yeah, farewell to spring.
He rode the Vuelta as well. Let's throw that in as well.
That so is true. He's almost anonymously. So maybe he's saving himself.
Training for this 3 days recovery. You never know. We're going to look very stupid if he wins it. I'll tell you that.
Let's see. Matej Vacek is coming. He's struggled a bit this year, I must admit, as Vacek. Let's see. Again, we're going for. It says Trek, but is that a POC helmet?
It's a POC helmet with hair sticking out of the front of it. You don't really want to block those vents. Those helmets work by air channeling through those vents and out of the back of the helmet. So in an ideal world, you wouldn't have a mohawk sticking through it. However,
are you saying that if I was wearing that helmet, I'd be more aero?
It would suit you down to the ground, Carlton. It'd be your optimum helmet. You wouldn't even need one of those specialized aero socks they have, because the idea of them is, I think, that they keep your hair close to your head, so your hair's not impeding the flow of the air through the helmet, and you, as you point out, would have no such difficulties.
Follically challenged, I think, is the kind way of saying it. Yes, Azakut is another one. Blurton Nuha is coming up next, of Kosovo. We've already had Sami Hanzani, who's gone off, but yeah, I'm agog to find out what Blurton Nuha can do. Tell you what, he looks serious.
There's a certain focus to it. Yeah.
Bradley Wiggins shaved his beard off for the hour record, despite claiming that he was going to go full bearded. And Jeffrey Soup, of course, in the welter, proving that quick men can be can have a desperate Dan chin. And so this man is going to give it. Blurton Nuha is going for it. What's he riding? Welcome back. The wide open spaces that we are playing with here. It's a 29.8 kilometre long course for the Europeans. 2 individual time checks along the way. There's a timing point after 10 kilometres, one at 24. And we are still waiting for our first rider to finish. Here's Ryan Mullen, 5th in the World Championships in 2016. What can he hope for?
Ryan's kind of, I think Ryan Mullen's come back to time trialling a little bit this year. You know, he's been kind of employed to do other things. He won the national championships this year against a pretty decent field, including people like Ben Healy. And I think he's kind of just brought a little bit of focus back to this. So, you know, he's got the power for this kind of course. You know, he's a big, powerful rider. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he does. We have our first time checks through the first split, where Mr. Bax of the Netherlands is leading from Nicholas Larsson, but it's all pretty tight. It's 4 or 5 seconds really covering the first few riders. We didn't find in the women's race earlier this afternoon, that first time check was more of a guide as to who'd gone out too hard than a guide as to who was going to win. I would say that much.
Well, if sure Bax can carry his Swiss form, then it might well be that that's just a very, very accomplished performance.
Yeah, it's always the danger of predicting too much from the first time check, and particularly you extrapolate from the last race you saw on the course and you think it's going to be the same, and often it's not. But really need to see that second time check.
Matheus Sobreiro also involved in the Welter time trial. He didn't have the best of runs, but then again, he was a support rider, so that really dials down your effort.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's always a real danger, and kind of when you're doing your revision for a race like this, you find yourself looking at Grand Tour time trials and having to remind yourself that for a lot of riders it's just a day off.
It is, because they're basically saving their legs in support of their team principle, and Matheus Sobreiro is certainly one of those who had that role. Picking up, as you can see, with Mikkel Kwiatkowski. It'll be interesting to see how he comes through the first split. I don't think he's with there just yet. Here's Yves Lampaert. Again, somebody who would prefer a much longer course, I think it's fair to say, but he's got a good record in this, the Europeans, 4th in 2018, just missing out on the podium. And as you were saying, Michael, it's if you can rediscover some of your form, and to be honest, when you have a physical memory of going fast and know exactly what to do in order to get very good results, that doesn't leave you.
No, the feel of it, the inertia, just what it feels like when you're going well. Looking at Yves Lampaert just there, I thought, I'm not sure that he's actually really trying to bring an awful lot of focus to this. He'd look, I wouldn't want to say riding round, because he's riding round in inverted commas at 52 kilometres an hour here, I'm guessing. But I'm just not sure that he's kind of his head, sitting with his head quite high, not maybe, you know, you'd be looking, if he was really focusing on this, you'd be thinking head down, really working the aero, and I'm not completely sure he's doing that. We will see.
I'm looking forward to seeing Ryan Mullen actually in action, because since he moved to Bora, he's refound himself, hasn't he?
Yeah, and I say he's kind of brought a little bit back towards time trialing this year and a little bit more focus on it. I suppose he might be thinking about an Olympic place for next year as well. He's got a certain amount of competition for it off Ben Healy, for if nobody else. But I think that might be kind of at the back of his mind.
It's Miguel Heidemann. He was off form in Denmark, where he was expected to, well, make a pronouncement in his time trialling. Hasn't quite worked, but let's see. Sometimes you can re-find yourself, as we've been saying. Dan Hula is off next, actually, and he has made a good deal of progress of late. And dare I say it, the Netherlands really are endurance kind of specialists, really. Not necessarily this sport, but their sports in general tend to be endurance-based. Think of long track speed skating.
I'm going to say speed skating is what we're going to end up talking about here. Yeah.
Exactly, and there's a lot of crossover between those two sports.
They're almost identical.
Well, the speed skaters ride for training when it's not their season, and vice versa.
Yeah, and the aerodynamics are the same. The speeds are very similar. They kind of a lot of the distances crossover between long track speed skating and track and shorter road events. So no, they've got a great deal in common.
So let's see how Dan Hula goes. I think he might actually surprise a few. By that, I'm talking about a top 10 finish, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
We've got Stefan Bissegger coming next, though. That is that's a conundrum.
Yeah, he's such a class act as a time trialist, but not having the best year he's ever had and rolling straight in off the back of the Vuelta. He could do literally anything. Honestly, he could be anywhere between winning it and not cracking the top 30. I just don't know.
It's true, isn't it?
And probably neither does he.
No, I don't think he does. Defending champion, but he was shocking in the welter by his own his own admission. So, here is the Swiss. I don't know what you can read into his Dizzy Gillespie cheeks there, but he certainly doesn't want to do that when he sets off.
Doesn't look very sure about it.
No, I think it's probably nerve setting in. He's eschewed a visor.
He usually does, I think.
Does he?
Yeah. That POC helmet works better with the visor on some people than others, so I think he usually races without.
Well, he's determined. That's the most focused start I've seen so far. Hope he got round that corner, just cutting away. Remy Cavagna will be coming off next. It was silver in the Europeans in 2020. And again, that's somebody that I think will go very, very strongly out. Have we got a time check intermediate for Bruno Amarai yet?
We do not, no. The intermediate time check screen seems to be running a little bit in the deficit of what's happening on the road, so but we haven't got anything on the screen yet. We have Mikhail Kwiatkowski is fourth through the first time check. Yves Lampaert is second through that first time check, but he's only second and a little bit behind Bax. But nonetheless, I think, going to put him down for probably not going to win it just at the minute off that.
Remy Cavagna could win it, and let's see, he was ninth last year, which must have been a bit of an upset. But he was runner-up in Algarve, which had a very strong time trialing roster.
Yeah, he also did a good time trial at the Tour de France this year, and it wasn't a course that would suit him at all. Oh, double check for sure. That was not assured at all. We saw in the women's race, we saw quite a few people doing that corner just like that. You come bowling into it with a little bit of a tailwind behind you, and it's because you're going around the wrong side of a roundabout. It hasn't really been designed to do that, and I don't think the barriers are necessarily easy to spot.
So it's a bit like ground rush. Suddenly it's upon you.
Yes, quite.
So here we go then. Next up, we've had Oliveras. I'm just having a quick look here. It says Polska.
Bodnar.
Beg your pardon. At last, there he is. Apologies, I just lost my timing sheet completely.
Well, he's been at every World Championships for as long as anyone can remember. You really should have recognised him.
Up and down, I think is fair to say.
The man who won, I was thinking of having won that time trial in Marseille at the end of the Tour. Was it 2016 when Romain Bardet had the worst time trial that anyone's ever had? I always thought that in some ways it overshadowed Bodnar actually managing to win the Tour de France, final time trial at the Tour de France. It seemed sort of a little bit sad.
Yeah, indeed. We got Matti Catania up next. Now, he won in Poland. He was 8th at the World Championships, and he had a strong Dauphiné as well. Actually, that was last year's Dauphiné. Beg your pardon. But again, it's somebody I don't know how he's running because of the Vuelta.
The Vuelta, yeah. He's kind of not had the best year. He's 2021. He had a good year a couple of years ago and hasn't quite revisited that since, I think. But again, it's a, you know, it's a half-hour-long time trial. It's a different thing.
Nelson Oliveira just been called to the podium. We have another Oliveira out on track at the moment. That's Ivo. It's Nelson who's just about to start us off, and short back to him. He looks more comfortable on arrow straight roads. Just looking at, I don't see as much saddle shuffle going on these days. I know that they've given a little bit of leeway to the attitude of the nose of the saddle. Has that allowed people to be better planted? I'm noticing him shuffling.
I don't know that it's made an awful lot of difference. I think maybe what might have made more difference is they've changed slightly the rules at the front of the bike, which affect a little bit how you can sort of position yourself on the whole machine. I think that will have made more difference than the saddle, to be honest.
Is there still a height restriction on the extenders?
There is, but it now relates to how high, to the height of the rider. So the taller the rider, the more height extension you can get. So it's possible if you're a taller rider to get a bike that actually fits a bit better, which I think was always kind of part of the problem.
Yeah, it makes sense. So we wait for Vuelta form to reveal itself, and Nelson Oliveira had a tough time, but he probably, again, would have been preferring a few hills and maybe a little bit longer. Let's see what we get from Mikkel Bjerg. Fourth in, last year here at the Europeans. The thing is, can he possibly reinvigorate his Dauphiné form? Let's wait and see.
I was going to say, a cracking ride at the Dauphiné. Yeah.
Let's see. I think he's got a great chance of winning this. There you are. I've set my stall out.
It's kind of, it ought to suit him. He's kind of big, powerful rider, and that's what you need.
Now, has the wind dropped? That's another big question. Oh, he wobbled off the start ramp there. I don't know whether that was just a dodgy release or just he wasn't ready to stamp.
We have seen a bit of that. I think it's windy as much as anything else.
I guess you're elevated from the crowd, so
yeah.
all of a sudden you're actually hitting it once you come out of the protection of the start house. Stefan Kung will come next, twice a European champion, of course, the Swiss. He beat Ghana in the Algarve. He beat Evenepoel in in Switzerland. That's right.
And a good Giro TTs as well this year, Kung.
Yeah, I think,
you know, he's Stefan Kung is the guy I always predict is going to win a championship, and he never does.
Well,
every single time, World Championship, Stefan Kung, and he was 12th. So you know.
So are you going for him now?
Yeah, why not? I think his form was better earlier in the season. I think kind of he had big targets and things like the Giro and did very well there. I'm not sure about him this far through.
Here we go. It's your intermediate at 24, and this is Ivo Oliveira, and he is well ahead of Macagon, who was a very late entry. Also about 10 minutes before the start, to be honest. And mind you, foreshortening the cameras, you just don't know where the line is, but I'm suspecting the reason we're seeing him is that this is going to be a very good time at the 24-kilometre mark. And there it is. What about that pace?
I'm not convinced he's done 56.8 kilometres into the headwind. I think the actual positions of the splits are slightly out, because if he's going to do that with the tailwind section on the way back, he's going to finish with an average speed of about 60 k's an hour, and Filippo Ganna will start getting worried about his hour record. But he's going very, very well so far. You have to give him that. You do. Wout van Aert won the Tour de France time trial in 21 and 22. He's fifth in the World Championships, which would have upset him. He's quite a useful rider. I think so. Yeah. And equally, he's had a little bit of, well, he wasn't, of course, at La Vuelta. I think this will be a strong performance, and I think he means it, and he's starting the way he does. Yeah, he does. I mean, he's been ill, apparently, according to the team, in the last few days. He hasn't been sort of totally as well as he'd like to have been. A little bit of it is how he recovered from that. I mean, he's still got good form. I mean, he won road and one Tour of Britain, which is always was a traditional kind of pre-Worlds preparation, so ought to be in decent shape, but with Wout van Aert, we'll do Wout van Aert stuff, whatever. So. Josh Tarling, I can't wait to see this. Of course, a medal in the Worlds, took a bronze behind Ghana and Evenepoel, neither of whom are here. And this is a great chance for Joshua Tarling to indeed become European champion. And he starts as favourite. And his ride in the Worlds is absolutely stunning. I don't think anybody really expected it. And do you know what? This course will suit him a lot better. It's a powerful course for a powerful guy. Big moment for Joshua Tarling.
And that is it. The start house can close and everyone can move over to the finish area. Joshua Tarling is off and underway. Junior world champion, second in Bessèges in February. Bronze, of course, at the Worlds. Won the European Championship as a junior. So let's see, can he possibly turn that into a senior title here? It'd be wonderful.
I think he goes into it as favourite as well, because he'll have the chance to prepare for it. You know, this is a big target event for him, and he'll have the support of the team to really do something.
Yep. Oh, double checking into corners.
Same corner again.
Yeah, same deal. It's that which rushes upon you. We have a big lollipop, don't we, at What's Up, which is aptly named village.
It's a proper roundabout, proper turnaround.
What's Up could be, of course, your rubber side if you're not careful.
That's a lovely shot.
Isn't it gorgeous? You know, they're allowed to fly. This is a drone, not a helicopter, I believe.
It's making a helicopter noise.
I know it is, but that's dubbed on for all pictures. But if we had a helicopter, we'd be going all the way around the course. So I think that was a drone, which is why it was over to one side, just in case of a technical, it ends up in a cornfield and not in your back pocket.
Did that happen?
They've crashed before. Yes.
Back pocket.
Be a big back pocket.
Was Cyclocross World, or was it last year? They had kind of fantastic drone shots until the UCI told them to stop flying a thing with helicopter blades on it at head height through crowded spectator zones. But it was very good while it lasted. Yeah. Well, some of the other World Championships, the mountain biking downhill, the tracer shots of the drones were just spectacular. Yeah. I must admit, but I presume they were only operated in areas without crowds. But yeah, or some of those spectator-restricted zones. Here's Bruno Amarai. How has he been going through the course? Bruno Amarai, have we got time checks on? I would say the time checks are a bit sporadic. Nice. Yes, we have. He was third at that first time check. He was there in 10 minutes 27 seconds, which put him 5 seconds down on back, so very much in the mix at that time check. This is a proper turnaround. This is like a British time trial course, because this you go down one slip road, round a roundabout, under the road, round another roundabout, back up the slip road. Yeah, A11 Norwich. I'm sure you've dominated it in the past. I believe there is a very similar turn on one of the courses up there. Yes, your knowledge of British time trial courses does you credit, Carlton. Thank you. Unlike me, I made some joke about the F1110 on the earlier commentary, and I should, of course, have said the F1011. I've been getting abuse from my time trialing friends for getting my course codes all mixed up. Here we go. We are riding along here with Bruno Amarai. Now, he had a great Giro time trial, and I'm just wondering whether, because he went out reasonably early, sort of X the boat that sailed with the favourites. The wind, to my mind, doesn't seem to have dropped that much, but then again, you know... I don't know, that's good. It looks very similar to me, and I think kind of trying to call time trials on the basis that the wind is going to rise or the wind is going to drop, it's kind of gusty for everybody. This is coming into the finish, and this is really hard, because they go down through this underpass and then up the ramp out of the underpass straight into a block headwind. It's a really sadistic 200 metres, this last section of the course. We're calling it unkind, and Makogon... to be honest, I'm actually surprised he hasn't been wound in by Sjoerd Baks, who is apparently going fast enough to have caught many a minute man. But anyway, Makogon is going to come home, and this will be our benchmark. Finland set the benchmark with a 35.07, and his average pace just over 50 kilometres per hour. That's pretty brisk. That's not a bad ride at all for kind of an early starter who, you know, you wouldn't have been heavily fancied. He's done himself credit there. He's not ending up at the podium, but that's a solid ride. Well, often, as you pointed out earlier, Michael, you can, if it's an unexpected entry, sometimes just a complete lack of pressure can draw results. And you also get riders turning up to big events not really expecting a result, but actually it enables them to concentrate on their ride because they're thinking about themselves and not what they might go home with. Second intermediate split here, and Yves Lampaert looks like he may well just set our new benchmark at this point. This is after 24 kilometres, by the way. Still waiting for the clock to
to stop here as he hits the timing line. It's going to be very close between himself and Sjoerd Baks, who we did warn you about. Oh, half a second.
Half a second. Couldn't be a lot closer. No, it's that is kind of the there's kind of they're shooting that with a very long telephoto lens, and it's quite foreshortened.
Well, he got there, but only just. It shows you what Sjoerd Baks can produce. I did warn you about him. Had a very good tour of Switzerland. Not a specialist, but I guess, Michael, the shorter course will open it up to those who are not specialists.
It does, as long as they're managing to hold the aero position, because the aero still counts on the shorter course. You're going very fast, particularly today. It's windy. It's something you need to concentrate on. But it doesn't require that long pacing effort. You know, you will get it less wrong. We saw some people at the Worlds this year, which is quite long and very hard to pace. There were some riders there got that all sorts of wrong. You're not going to get it that wrong here, and if you've got the power to overcome that and you can kind of hold the position, you could get a good result.
I guess it depends on how important it is within the pecking order of disciplines within a team. We were talking about those who've, for instance, Ryan Mullen now at Bora, they really do place a lot of importance on time trialling. So it may well be that the Irish rider comes in with something decent.
He's 10th at the first time check, which is a relatively modest setting out of his stall, but let's see.
Here is Ivo Oliveira, and he has found a minute and 45 and a 53.6. So that's
very
a
fast.
proper benchmark, but they're coming thick and fast. And indeed, here comes Sjoerd Baks, and this will be the benchmark because it's going to be less than a minute before he finishes. So clearly, Ivo Oliveira, not a bad time at all, but Sjoerd Baks, wow, back attack. Let's see. What's his pace? A 54.2. That's quick.
That's brisk. I mean, we're looking at I'm guessing we're looking at winning average speeds at 56, 57 kilometers an hour, which, you know, we sort of talked about this being a fast course with no kind of real technical challenges. It's not that climb out of the underpass is the major climb. It's the only thing on the course that even remotely amounts to a hill. Even with this wind, it's riding so fast.
It is. So that was Sjoerd Baks, who will be nipping at the heels of bragging rights with this man. Dan Uhl. Sounds like he was named after a punch to the solar plexus. Yeah, let's see how he goes, because it's he has made great recent progress, and he's a power manager, you can see, but lateral movement on the front wheel here suggests he might be labouring a bit.
It's also, there's the wind, which is still kicking in around the trees. We're still on a headwind section of the course for him here, and it's about kind of keeping your head down and keeping concentrated. Some of the riders who've got quite a low head carriage, you keep seeing popping their head up, because just when you get blown around by the wind, you start fearing that, you know, you're suddenly going to run out of road, and what's under your front wheel is going to change from black to green. And instead of just being able to kind of keep head down, tucked in, really focused on the position, having to actually look where they're going, which is, you know, for a pro time trialist, you don't want to look where you're going because it's slow.
Stefan Kung, twice a European champion. Michael's pick for the day, and looks like a very good pick. He looks fantastic.
He looks really rooted, doesn't he? I always think this is the thing, the really good time trialist looks like they're being pulled along by a magnet under the road. He really looks like he's riding on a rail. I mean, he's a big guy, which helps hold the bike down, and taking the unorthodox left-hand way around this roundabout, since everybody else went the other way. Interestingly.
Well, nice shilly-shally.
Yep.
Just about avoided
Nicely judged.
Yeah, sailed his way through there. Beautifully threaded, which and very quickly back down into position.
Yeah, a kind of mark of a good time trialist on a course like this. There are very few interruptions, there's very little technical stuff, and you want to spend as little time. You know, it's like talk about skiers wanting to spend as much time on the snow as they can so they can be in the aerotuck rather than standing upright, waving their arms about. It's exactly the same. You're going to get right back down to the bars and get your head tucked in again.
Well, Van Aert, it may not be as pure as Stefan Kung, but we're talking about modicums here, and this man has got so much power. If it is a power course today, then he's your man.
I kind of feel it's not technical enough for him. I think he would want a course that's just harder to deal with. Having said that, is it a minute since we saw Stefan Kung going around here?
And he took it a lot smoother than that.
Doesn't feel like it, though.
No, it feels about 45 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could be absolutely right. So maybe he's making inroads. Fifth at the World Championships would have been a disappointment to Wout van Aert.
Yeah, and actually, if we've had the first time check through, he is actually 5 seconds up on Stefan Kung at the first time check. But first time check, that's too tight to call. But yeah, you're right. The World Championship course should have suited him. It should have suited him. You would have expected better than this, and I think he would have regarded 5th as a disappointment.
Well, one thing about having a moderately long tail to your helmet is if you do look down, then I'm afraid it's going to have a blocking effect.
Those POC helmets are a disaster. If the tail sticks up like that, there's a lot of frontal area involved in it. I think I haven't got the first. So we got a time check on him. We must do. Yeah, he's 5th through the first time check. So he's 20 seconds down at Wout van Aert. And not Stefan Bissegger's day. I think he's feeling the Vuelta, to be honest.
I think so. Defending champion here, and as Michael was pointing out, seedings-wise, you'd have expected the organisers to, as defending champion, sending him off last. But Joshua Tarling, who took bronze in the Worlds, they've given a nod to that, and he is. We haven't seen anything of him, to be honest. You would expect, quite frankly, to see an awful lot more of him. But no. Sjoerd Max is our leader at the moment. Average pace through the course of 54.2 kilometres per hour. And we're going to hear from him right now.
Tell us your feeling being in Netherlands here with the national jersey and getting the best time so far.
Yeah, maybe the best time, but a lot of good riders will come. And it wasn't my best race for the feeling. So, yeah.
What did happen?
I don't know, my legs just blocked already from the beginning. And it felt hard the whole time trial, but maybe it should feel that way, so I don't know. We'll see in the end what my result is.
Yeah, because recently you were in good shape.
Yeah, it's true, but time trial is also something else than like a road race of 5 hours. So.
What did you find the hardest on that course?
Yeah, the wind is hard because you never really have tailwind. And yesterday with the Recon we had like full tailwind on the last part, and now it's more side wind. So it's hard to find a good rhythm.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Nice detail there for us.
Yeah, and it's also reassuring when you've been sitting here and a commentator all day saying, oh, it's all about the wind. It's kind of reassuring when one of the riders pops up and says it's all about the wind. Josh Tarling, by the way, through the first time check in the lead, 4 seconds ahead of Wout van Aert. So Tarling, Van Aert and Stefan Kung in that order at the first time check.
Here's Yves Lampaert. Now, he means business, quite frankly, and there's a gaggle here, as you can possibly see. It's the Belgian we're looking at, by the way, Yves Lampaert, and here he is in the pale blue. So, let's see. He would have preferred it just a little bit longer. That's he is collecting riders out on the course. They will have that's Asparin in front of him. Let's see, Lampaert, 4 seconds to the good. Very good indeed. So, we have our leader.
For the moment.
Well, I'm not sure it's going to be our winning time today for Yves Lampaert, but it's nice to see him dialing the clock back just a little bit. He was 4th in 2018 at the Europeans. But how does his intermediate times stack up through the run of the course?
He was pretty consistent. He's kind of finished where you would expect. He's now 9th at that first time check. He's still leading at the second time check, but we haven't had the hitters through there yet. So given the way he did it, he seemed to pace it pretty consistently. So yeah, he might hang on for a top 10, but I don't think he's going to be an awful lot better than that. And Josh Tarling at long last. At
long last, how comfortable does he look?
Doesn't he just, yeah. With which he shuffles a bit, but no, he's attacking it. I mean, you can see the wind. I mean, Josh is a big guy, but you can sort of see he's still being blown around. But he's clearly shifting.
Certainly is. Here's Mikkel Kwiatkowski. Clock's just gone red on him, so Yves Lampaert continues to lead with a 32.55, and a good effort by Kwiatkowski, I must say. Not an out-and-out specialist, has done good time trials in the past, and still hitting the magic 54.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's very hard to be a time trial specialist as a pro bike rider because you get so few opportunities to perform, and there's always been this trend of really good time trialists to slide into doing other things. Even people like Fabian Cancellara, as his career went on, Tony Martin, they stopped being pure TT specialists and started doing other things. And it maybe makes it difficult if you're Kwiatkowski coming back to ride a time trial is just to get a certain amount of catching up to do, and a certain amount of time on your time trial bike you just haven't put in the last few years, because it's something that, and maybe it's one of the reasons some of the juniors coming through are very good, is that there are more opportunities for junior time trialing. They do a lot of track racing, particularly the British riders, so they get to spend more time riding in a TT position, and I think that's an advantage.
What is it you lose then?
It's different muscle groups work in slightly different ways. The bike goes faster, and the inertia under the pedals changes a little bit the way the muscles work. So it's just learning to go quickly, and it sounds like a dumb thing to say, to learn to go quickly. Surely that's what these guys do all the time. But riding at 450, 460 watts, doing 56, 57 kilometers an hour, that's something that it's very hard to simulate unless you spend time on your bike, maybe time doing some motor pacing behind the scooter or something, just learning to do that and learning to do it in position. These guys, some of them will do kind of an hour-long session on their turbo trainer in a time trial position, which is absolute purgatory. It's a horrible thing to do, but that's how you adapt and learn to produce your best in a quite an extreme position.
It is a good performance by Bruno Amirail, and good enough for third place at the moment. And again, hitting that 54 kilometers per hour. I think we are going to be nudging the 57s, as Michael was pointing out a little bit earlier. Here's Dan Uhl, and stops the clock fastest so far, and they are really setting some great benchmarks for those at that point, aren't they, as an average?
Yeah, I think those averages are a little bit exaggerated there, because it is gently a tailwind from here to the finish. So I think actually they've got the intermediate distance is not sort of entered in the spreadsheet in exactly the right place. It's exaggerating the speeds a little. The differentials, the deltas are right, but the actual speeds aren't, because they're, we're seeing just to pick someone at random, Max Walscheid is kind of one of the more recent finishers. He did 57 kilometers an hour into the headwind of the first time check, 56 to the second time check, and actually finished with 53.7, and it means he's going slower at the tailwind, and that makes no sense. So.
Okay, well, let's smooth over that.
I enjoyed it.
No, I mean, it's worth noting, but how trustworthy are those?
They're often a bit wonky, because it's not the key to the thing.
Yes. So here we are, another little bit of technical section. They're few and far between.
But difficult corner.
It is. Let's see how he takes it. And rather nicely.
No problem.
But Van Aert sailing through.
To think about being Wout van Aert.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he's got the power. Oh, gosh, and a little bit of poise to be adjusted there, but powered his way out of it. The thing is, when you are carrying such strength, Michael, you can make amends, can't you, for an odd glitch along the way?
You can solve all sorts of problems in cycling with horsepower. As you watch really strong riders, sometimes, even if they tactically get themselves slightly, you can close the gap. You can ride in the wind for a few hundred meters, and it doesn't cost you as much. There is, oddly, in cycling, it's one of the things I sometimes think we neglect, is actually just the horsepower that riders have. We love talking about the tactics and the teamwork and the sophistication, but there's no substitute for grunt.
Josh Tarling may well have raised a few eyebrows amongst fans when he took a bronze at the Worlds. In fact, he was extremely disappointed that it wasn't a more precious metal. And he was fantastic, and here he is. So if that was a surprise to some of you, now we know about him. And dare I say it, in the absence of the two that finished in front of him, Ghana and Evenepoel here, he starts as favourite, and that was fully committed through there. It's almost as if he's practiced it.
That kind of, well, he wouldn't have had a lot of chances to practice it, because they'll only have had the barriers out sort of maybe for one recce, and you might only get a chance of one or two goes at it, because there was not much road left unused there.
Goodness me, millimetric precision.
And I tell you what, it didn't feel like a minute since we'd seen Van Aert going around that corner either.
Ah, there we are. Fantastic. Just dipping down here. Once again,
it looks like we're going to strafe somebody.
At least to harvest some corn, by the looks of things. There we are. A short reach of our drone footage here, but that is a dinner plate.
And quite a long way down the block as well. So this has been, on paper at least, this is a tailwind section. It was interesting that Bax were talking about it being actually a little bit more crosswindy, but this is a very fast straight section, of course, and it's all the way back into Emmen down this road. So you've got to really kind of settle in and focus, and it's a long ride.
Well, Bissegger's time at this intermediate looks loud and proud, but Catania is absolutely motoring. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with time trialing, we often talk about negative splits, and that is holding something back to impose a little bit later on. However, when the wind is blowing, sometimes that gets amended.
Yeah, you've got to judge it. You've got to regard the wind in this as having a little bit of a... It's almost like a hill. It's almost like you're climbing a little bit for the first half of the course and dropping down very slightly in the second half. So you do actually want to push harder at the beginning. And actually, it's harder to judge because you can just push a little bit too hard over those first few kilometres and really suffer. We saw that a little bit in the women's racing and some of the juniors racing this morning, who just went out, gave it everything into the headwind, and actually discovered they didn't have quite enough left for the supposedly easy section. Won't see a lot of negative splitting today, probably. We certainly won't see it on the average speeds because, as we say, they seem a little bit wonky. But you probably can't really take too big a negative split, even on the power on a day like this.
I was expecting a bit more from Nelson Oliveira, but again, the welter in his legs, and I think that's being displayed right now. But then again, Bissiger was there too.
Bissiger was there too. I don't think either of them would have won it, to be fair. Remy Cavagno is he still second through that? Sorry, I'm just trying to update my... It's very frustrating when the timing screen is running behind the television.
Well, lucky you can't see us because there's a fist being shaken at the ordinateur, as they say.
To say, Stefan Kung is still looking. You can see, mind you, he's a big guy. He's still getting blown around the road. Look at that. You don't often see Stefan Kung just kind of sign waving from one side of the road to the other as the front wheel goes.
Sobrero looks like it's going to be a top 10 for him. There's Aspirin's time. This is just so far, of course, but Sobrero wraps up 19 riders through out of the 32, not 31, that make up today. McCugan of Finland it was that started things off. Wasn't on the official start list, but indeed took part, as indeed is this man, Stefan Kung, looking good. Stefan Kung looked to be giving time away to Wout van Aert, who's chasing him down. Only minute margins out here, and here's Stefan Kung. Now, this will be interesting to see when the clock stops upon him. He should be in the lead, and he is, so we're rolling it right now, and hopefully the pictures we see will be live so that my rudimentary stopwatch works. Stefan Kung, I still think he looks absolutely fabulous, and what he can do.
He always does. He's he's the most. He and Ganna are the two most sort of stylish time trialists of the current crop, because he just looks. But as I say, even he's getting blown around today. So that's how you know it's windy.
Indeed. Oh gosh, yeah. Some very shaky moments here. Wout van Aert. Now we expect him to be coming through pretty soon at the intermediate. It's Josh Tarling as well. He won't be that far behind either.
Josh Tarling can see Wout van Aert's following car.
Wow.
And there's not a lot of people can say that in a time trial.
Here we go then. And so I should be able to give you a... Well, actually the clock helps.
I reckon I'm going to manage this one.
Here we go. So at the line, pretty much the same. Oh, he's to the good by 1.2 seconds. What a proper battle we've got.
And they were tight as anything at the first time check, so it's all about the ride home between them. I'm guessing Josh Tarling's ahead of both of them, given that that's Wout van Aert up the road in front of him.
I guess we're going to find out right now.
That's the time check there.
Well, here it is. Let's see. If the clock stays green upon him, he's closing. Absolutely brilliant. This is the intermediate time track. Dan Uhl, we just cut away at an important moment, never mind, but Dan Uhl is coming home. A couple of... Right, okay. Did not see a time check at the line. Meanwhile, Stefan Bissiger is coming in, and this is the reason we've cut away. We'll get back to Josh Tarling's intermediate split in a moment. I hope we see it as a replay, whether he's up or down, but Bissiger's certainly in charge.
He's built through this really well.
That was great.
Yeah, he's really ridden a good second half. He rode his way into that, and maybe that's not so surprising. You're carrying the fatigue from the Vuelta, maybe that's what you'd expect, but he kind of, I was being very dismissive of him at time check one, and I was very wrong.
Well, you know, he is somebody that gets stronger through a Grand Tour. We've seen that in the past, and so a couple of days extension to that. And he's set a proper benchmark here for us.
Let me tell you that Josh Tarling is leading now at that second time check, which we didn't see, by no less than 25 seconds. No, sorry, 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
What?
Yeah.
30 seconds quicker than Wout van Aert.
Yeah.
Well, let's
Kind of takes the suspense out of it, doesn't it?
Well, let's see. Strange things can happen. But Joshua Tarling is absolutely a man on a mission. And look at that. It's a special position he has now in our thoughts. And he's maintaining a beautiful one as well.
Position, and he's got a real focus on this, because for him this is a big event, because this is an opportunity to win a championship. He's 19 years old, first senior year, you win a European Championship. That's a very big deal. So this is something he'll have been concentrating on. He will know the course probably better than anyone else in the field. They'll have been through kind of the modelling of the course, how to ride it in different conditions, and he's executing that really nicely. And the lead he's got at that second time check, I mean, unless he's gone out way too hard, that's a very convincing lead.
Bissegger's time, loud and proud, and as you can see, Cavagna slots, oh gosh, fourth. It was there's quite a few riders encamped about that point. Fourth quickest then for Cavagna. We'll come back to Josh Tarling in a few moments' time, but Wout van Aert was closing on Stefan Kung, and indeed quicker than him by a very modest margin. However, what's happening now?
Very, very tight. The last time check there was really
1.2.
It wasn't even that. It was tiny. It was less than a second between them. So that sort of, they're probably honestly racing for second at this point behind Josh Tarling. But it's as tight as anything. You would kind of fancy Stefan Kung for the run-in, the kind of road it is, but. God, when the way Wout van Aert throws a bike around is something very, very special. He offers up a big profile to the wind as well, so raw power is exactly what he's got. But I feel that Joshua Tarling, as you quite rightly said, this is a big target for him. Possibly a bigger target than it would have been for Wout van Aert through the season. Yeah,
20 years of age, and the question is, can he become the first European champion since Remco Evenepoel to deliver in his first season in the seniors this title? Looks like it.
Certainly does. I mean, he's a lot less certain over that little double roundabout than Wout van Aert was, but he's got a lot of time to play with, and he'll know from the team car, because he knows as much about this as we do. They've got the intermediate splits in the team car as well, so they'll be saying, it's just keep it safe, keep it on the road, because he's got a margin, and a margin over Wout van Aert and Stefan Kung.
Let's see how strong Bissegger's time is, I guess. We'll only know that when Stefan Kung comes in. No disrespect to anybody else. Catania, second quickest, but 30 seconds giving away to the mighty Stefan Bissegger at the moment.
Stefan Bissegger really laid that down in the second half. He did not have a good outward leg into the wind. He didn't look good. He looked all out of sorts and was, only sixth at that first time check, and 30 seconds down than Josh Tarling in that first few kilometres, but he has really got his act back together.
He was hugely disappointed and said so as well in the Welter to finish 11th in the individual time trial. But very much an off day, and I think possibly, as you quite rightly said, may have held himself back a little bit to make amends here.
It'd be frustrating because he's had a disappointing Vuelta. He didn't get what he wanted out of that, and what he's turned up here at a race where he's defending champion, and would love to win this race, carrying all the fatigue from the Vuelta that he didn't really get what he wanted out of.
Always worry about slow motions. Oh, this is why. Oh no! Terrible! Straight into the barrier. And that is about that's Kung, I'm afraid. That is a desperate thing to happen. A momentary lapse of concentration. I don't even know whether the barriers had been blown. It was certainly a narrowing into the road, and he was caught out.
I think it's we talk about just being blown around by the wind. You haven't got, because riders, these top riders, they very often, they don't really look where they're going. They're keeping their head down, they're keeping it tucked in, maximising the aero, and particularly with the wind, you can just find yourself on the side of a road you didn't expect to be on. Terrible mistake to make.
Well, I knew something was coming at the slow motion, but I didn't realise it was that bad. We hope he's okay. Bloodied but unbowed, I hope. Mikkel Bjerg coming in then, so Stefan Bissegger has got a chance of a medal here. Bjerg coming in, second quickest time set just a few moments ago, slightly indented pictures there. But Stefan Kung, what a shame. He was going so well, head down, taking as little vision as time trialists often do. Josh Tarling, well, one of his main rivals, has been hobbled here, Michael.
It's horrible to see anybody kind of in contention for a podium position, fighting for second place, just going out like that. I mean, he's back on his bike, but he's not getting that back in a race this length. So yes.
Not nice. Let's see what Van Aert can do in front of Josh Tarling as well. Don't forget, Tarling was 30 seconds up at that last split. Here's Stefan Kung coming through. Oh my goodness, that is a lot of claret, I'm afraid. Oh dear, that is terrible view.
No,
Stefan Kung, I mean, concussion protocols and the like, that is a terrible picture of a real athlete. And he's finishing the job, which he is almost programmed to do, I think it's fair to say. He was going so well, and it's ended in disaster, and he was straight to the medical facility once he crosses the line here. Such a shame for Stefan Kung. What a brave rider.
Yeah, I mean, you're so used to seeing riders getting back on the bike and finishing races, but that's really horrible, actually. I'm sorry.
Here's Wout van Aert, and it's going to be tight with Bissegger. Ooh, it's going red. 0.4 of a second down. Bissegger has the advantage at the moment. Goodness me, what a day. And here comes Josh Tarling. Bissegger's time is not going to stand. Tarling is going to be our champion. Thick and fast they come through here. And Joshua Tarling, European champion by a margin of 42 seconds. That's a country mile. Absolutely remarkable.
Enormous margin. Kind of the speeds they're going at on a short, flat, fast course like this to win the men's elite time trial by that sort of margin is genuinely extraordinary. That is a real top drawer performance. And you've got to look at Josh Tarling and say, well, Worlds next year, Olympics next year. He's 20 years old. He's got all of this in front of him, and he's one of the best 2 or 3 time trialists in the world.
Goodness me, that was special. But I'm still concerned, I must admit, by Stefan Kung and his injury. Don't wish to take anything away from Joshua Tarling. He did his job and did it brilliantly. Bissegger, silver medal for him, but a very pleased man after his time trial in La Vuelta.
In some respects, I mean, the way you talk about the ride of the day, obviously it's Josh Tarling, but Stefan Bissegger was so fast around the second portion of that course. He was 22 seconds behind Josh Tarling after that first time check, and at which point, we and everybody else would have written him off. And, he's lost, relatively speaking, so little over the second portion of the course. He's ridden himself up into second place, coming out of the Vuelta. That's an extraordinary thing to have done.
Well, no medical car out on course. He rode it home, as far as I can gather anyway, because this is the first assistance he has received. They are running through a concussion check with him right now, and he has been tidied up a modicum. But that was not a pleasant sight. This, though, is joyous.
Yes. Oh, this is a real result. And he'll have come into this after, I don't think it'd be unfair to say a surprise result at the Worlds. I don't think any of us expected him to be up there. We didn't expect him to be on the podium. And he backs it up and comes here. He proves that wasn't a fluke. This is a different kind of a course as well. It'll have suited him better because, to be honest, the course in Stirling wasn't kind of what he'd have picked. And he still produced a great result there. And here he is, first senior year European champion.
Absolutely impeccable. Well, it's a remarkable performance by this man, and I'm so pleased for him. Stepping into the seniors, congratulations being offered up there by Wout van Aert. Bissegger holding on to second place. Tarling takes the golds and the jersey. Stefan Bissiger, runner-up here, just edging Wout van Aert. Mikkel Bjerg, Catania finishing in 5th place. Nelson Oliveira, Dan Uhl, Cavagna Lampert, and Sjoerd Baks gets a top 10. Very creditable by the Dutchman. His Netherlands compatriot, Dan Uhl, finishing in 7th place. So the home nation here must be absolutely delighted with that. But I am cock-a-hoop for Josh Harling. Stefan Kung, despite coming off the bike, came home in 11th place. Remarkable. I hope that he is okay. Certainly being attended to after the line. Amarel Kwiatkowski, Nicholas Larsen, Valscheid Bodnar, and Rein Taramay, the time trialing days behind him now. But what a champion we've got in Joshua Tarling. Amazing. Our European champion. And here he is. I think he looked good in blue and gold.
He looks almost, I wouldn't say quite in disbelief, but there's just that kind of feeling of having gone and executed something and done that so well. You build up to it, and there'll have been more pressure on him than a lot of the others, because for him this is a bigger event. It's something that the team will have been preparing him for, and you turn up and deliver.
And he can go backwards as well. Well,
it's always a nice feeling, this bit. If you just won a race, you're still on the bike, you're still in your kit, you can really kind of glory in it. Everybody tells you what a great guy you are. I hope.
Well, I'm sure they are.
So I'm told.
Yes, it's never happened to me. In fact, the opposite. Anyway, very much looking forward to seeing and indeed hearing from him, I should say, in a short while. That was a great performance. You've had a long day. There's been some great runs here, haven't there?
It's been good racing. I must admit, I was looking over the course the last couple of days thinking, oh, crikey, this is your classic, your bypass time trial course with kind of big roads, big flat roads, nothing technical, not much to get in anybody's way. I thought, oh, this could be a long afternoon. But I've really enjoyed the racing. The racing on it's been good. This is, we always sort of say, it's the riders that make the race, not the course. So.
Very much so. And it doesn't matter how benign a course can look, it's how you attack it that absolutely counts. And Josh Tarling certainly did that. Our European champion, he is. Did the wind have as much of an impact as you thought? I mean, there was a few early runners that didn't seem that hampered.
I think it did, just when you look at riders being blown around, and I think the pacing was more even than we've seen in some of the earlier races today. Perhaps, to be honest, just because the guys are producing a little bit more power.
The favorite of this race, you got it. Well done.
Thank you, mate. Thank you.
What's about your race today?
Oh, it was hard. I felt really I felt weaker today than I did in the Worlds. And the wind was really hard. Originally, it was a lot of over and under with the crosswind, but it changed to more steady cross both ways and no tailwind or headwind, so it was just about kind of holding a high power all day, and it was really hard, yeah.
Now we take a look to your next races, your next goals for this season. The season is not over yet.
Yeah, I have Crow Race, and then I do Chrono des Nations with my brother.
And of course, now it's time to celebrate. Congratulations again.
Thank you, mate, I will.
What a nice chap. And I look forward to seeing him in the Crow Race, to be honest. A great race. Be enjoying your company for that. Josh Tarling is a European champion. Couldn't be more delighted.
Nope, and of course he's got his younger brother Finlay as well, who, there's more than one Tarling, and they're a very talented family. There seem to be a lot of kind of good families in cycling at the minute, of which they're a good example.
Yeah, well, Baxters have done a bit of that as well.
The Ray Raffertys from Ireland.
Indeed.
Lots of them. But yes, at the subject of Backsteads, Zoe Backstead won the Under-23 women's race by an unnecessarily large margin as well.
Hugely talented. Well, they both are, both Zoe and Eleanor. So this was the moment. Wout van Aert, I think he would have believed that it was going to be the lead at that point at least, but no.
It would be a surprise because, yeah, Bissiger, we keep talking about that last section of the course. He was so strong. He really rode his way into it. I mean, to be honest, he would be. He probably wasn't catching Josh Tarling whatever he did, but if I'd ridden the race that Bissegger's done, I'd thought I wish I'd committed to that earlier. Because if you look at the differential between his first half and his second half, there's no way he couldn't have gone faster around the course. I mean, probably he could have gained 10, 15 seconds. It wouldn't have caught this man. But you still be cross that you didn't absolutely nail it. And maybe he just on the line feeling the fatigue from the Vuelta, maybe a bit disappointed from the Vuelta, and just not absolutely committing to the early section of the course. Not having the faith that he'd got what it would take to back it up into the second half. And no.
Well, the folding of the Vuelta towels.
Intriguing choice of shot. Is it a metaphor of some sort, Carlton?
I don't know. I think Josh Tarling has wiped the floor with everybody.
Stefan, well, tell us the feeling.
Yeah, I feel better than at the Vuelta, which is really nice, finally. Better feelings are back. I think that was a good time. I'm now really curious to see where I end up. I think the possibility for a podium is definitely here, because I had good numbers and I felt actually quite good, which is really nice. And it's also promising for next year to do the tour and after the Olympics. And yeah, I think it was a good test, and now we see where I end up.
How you manage your effort on that course?
Quite well. It's a lot of side wind. Pretty even effort, I would say. Yeah, you have a little bit of a tailwind kind of part. It's not a big tailwind. Most of it is just side wind, so it's not super fast. So it's fast, but no, you only go always like 55 kilometers per hour. Never really tailwind, but yeah, I think it was good.
How challenging was it to come from La Vuelta straight into that TT, which we know is a hard effort?
Yeah, it was a test. I think I recovered quite well in these 2 days, which was better than expected. We went here to see where I am. I mean, as defending champion, you come back. And the Vuelta wasn't good for me, so I'm happy that I feel finally better.
Thank you, Stefan.
Thank you.
Good man. Well, we said it gets stronger within a Grand Tour, and that's clearly what happened.
Got stronger within that time trial.
Yes, he did. And a time trial in the Vuelta was not a happy thing for him, but he's turned it around, and your own sense of self and indeed your own self-belief counts for a great deal, doesn't it?
Particularly, this is kind of as a short time trial. And you're looking at it thinking, had it been a 40-kilometre time trial, it would have been interesting to see what he'd have done there. And I'm sure when he goes back and looks across the splits, I think he really should have just had more commitment and more belief in that from the start. He'll be back next year. He's got the Olympics next year, because the Olympics is such a big target for the time trialists.
Yeah, and it's a long lead-in as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Mind you, the gap between Olympic cycles has been smaller, hasn't it, because of the delay in Tokyo. But yeah, it was a 25.8 kilometre time trial in Valladolid, where he finished 11th. Ghana and Evenepoel 1 and 2, they did not come here. But I honestly think, even if they had, and indeed had been approaching their freshest, this man still would have given them a run for their money. It was amazing.
Yeah, I think so. Because he was not so far behind either of them at the Worlds. I mean, he was 48 seconds behind Remco Evenepoel at the Worlds, and the Worlds was much more a Remco Evenepoel kind of a course. So I'm hard pressed to believe he wouldn't have been, snapping very, very close at their heels, even if they had been here. I'd love to have seen that race. Actually, that would have been thrilling.
Well, we've got Alex Seckert, the under-23 champion. Josh Tarling still 19, but as he's professionally contracted, he plays with the big boys. Here is Alex Seckert.
Well, Alex, tell us a bit the feeling retaining this jersey after a bit of a disappointment, I guess, at the World Championships. How it is?
The disappointment was not so big, because I knew I had a great performance also at the Worlds. There was just one guy stronger on that course that day. But today I just did the same, gave everything, had a perfect TT. It's nice to crown it with a beautiful jersey like this.
How was this TT? How was this course?
It was pretty short, but yeah, on a course like this, super flat. In the Netherlands, always a lot of wind. It's a fair course. Everybody gets on his place, and yeah, that's nice for a TT specialist.
Yeah, the gesture on the podium, pointed to the sky. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, it's for my teammate Tel, but not only teammate, also good friend, just a good friend. He passed away a few weeks ago. He should have participated here in the road race. So this victory is also for him. I still think of him every day, and I hope he watched this.
Thank you very much. Congrats. Thank you.
Poignant there from Alex Eckert, under 23 champion, Carl Freddy Bavort, and indeed Gustav Wang of Denmark, silver and bronze. Ivan Romeo just missing out for Spain, and Aivaras Mikutis of Lithuania rounding out your top 5. Credit as well where it's due to Dean Harvey and indeed Darren Rafferty, the aforementioned.
We were talking about the Rafferty family not very long ago, so yeah, that's Darren Rafferty in 12th in the under-23s, minute 15 seconds behind, and teammate Dean Harvey only 5 seconds behind him, so consistent, if nothing else, by the Irish. Good Irish time trialists around at the minute and coming through.
How's the velodrome going?
I've been building that velodrome since as long as I can remember. I don't remember a time before the Irish velodrome being in the Dublin velodrome being in process.
I think we still had pterodactyls at the time when it
I think it will actually happen. I mean, they were as well to get on it as soon as they'd invented the bicycle back in 1860.
It may as well. Then they could just about be coming out of planning. Here's your last winners. Seven Bisca, defending champion, finishing second today on today's podium. Kung, unfortunately for him, taking a crash.
That was really... that's one of the nastier things I've seen in my time trial commentating career. It was unpleasant.
Not very nice at all. Hope he is okay. At least compos mentis, as you can expect, I suppose.
Yeah, but the thing is, I'm not even sure that... I don't know that the bike was damaged because of the way he went down, so he may not even have been... The following car may not even have seen him before he got back on the bike. Well, he shouldn't have been back on the bike in that condition.
No, I agree. But there's no medical car in attendance by the looks of things.
Well, they're 10 not to be in the time trial because you need so many of them, I think.
Exactly.
He probably just jumped straight back on the bike.
That's exactly it, instinctive. But it looked to me from the compression of his helmet that he'd taken a blow to the front of the skull, which is... I hope he is okay. It certainly didn't look pretty, but the helmet did its job.
Hopefully.
Let's speak to Matteo Sobrero, shall we?
Matteo, that was a long time we didn't see you. It was on Sunday. It was in Madrid. You're busy. Tell us how it was.
Yeah, first effort after Vuelta, stage 22. Yeah, not the best feeling today. Yeah, maybe it's good to have done like a big effort before tomorrow and Sunday. So yeah, I hope the legs will improve in the next days, and yeah, we'll see.
How did you manage your time between Madrid Sunday evening, reconning the TT, being ready for today?
Yeah, we fly on Monday, and yeah, we got Netherlands Monday evening, and then yesterday we did the recon, and today we raced already. So yeah. Yeah, it was not just me, it was also Cattaneo, Bissinger, so other guys, and so yeah, I was not the only one, yeah.
Was it a good idea?
Yeah, why not? It's for sure, yeah, I don't get boring.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Certainly does not get boring. This was a very, very swift and indeed, well, tidily dealt with, I think, save for Stefan Kung's mishap. Quite a dramatic day.
Yeah, it was good racing. So it didn't look like the most promising course I'd ever seen, and well, I got well taught, didn't I? It was exciting. It's particular time trialing is. I think I say this every time. People kept, oh, I don't like time trialing, it's a boring. And actually, you get a few time checks going, you get a bit of momentum going, and you know, the backwards and forwards and the way the different conditions affect different people and the different styles how people have of attacking a course. I really love watching a time trial, and I always find it an exciting race. And actually, I mean, you would looking at it on paper, you'd say, well, yeah, Josh Tarling won that by miles. But it was exciting stuff.
It really was, and the man who really lit it up for me was Stefan Bissegger.
Yes, yeah, no, he really his second half of the race was so good. You know, you would not have believed looking at the first time check that he was going to be back past Wout van Aert by the time he got to the finish, because he was, what, 20-25 seconds down on the first time check, and it's a short time trial. You know, you're pulling that back at 2 seconds a kilometre. He really got behind himself.
19 years of age, and he looks well within. He looks comfortable within his own comfort zone, I would say, showing great maturity for somebody who must have had a ground rush of success. I guess bronze medal at the Worlds counts for an awful lot.
It's a big confidence boost, because you can do all the kind of the analysis and the sums and the modelling you like and say, well, you should be able to live with the Evenepoels and the Kungs and the Gannas. But actually turn up to a race and do it. It really kind of, it lifts what you think of yourself. You turn up to a race like this thinking, well, I'm going to be able to win this, and it's something that's worth my while focusing on.
Tom Dumoulin, Giro d'Italia winner, of course. Great road racer who decided to retire early and enjoy life.
He watches a lot of bike races. He turns up to a lot of events. I was kind of sorry he retired. I mean, he was such a. I mean, I loved watching him as a time trialist. I loved his win in Bergen up the hill, when everyone's going, oh, he's too big, he's never going to get up the hill. Yeah. Oh, no, like this. Yeah. All the bike changing, all the malarkey, no, straight up the hill, boom.
Yeah, exactly.
Beautifully done.
He was often accused of being too big, but he was actually exactly the same weight and height as Chris Froome.
Yeah.
Strange. Yeah. So, talk us through, what did we see?
Well, we saw, this is Wout van Aert, finished on the podium, but you know, not his course possibly. He'd liked more technical, he'd probably have liked longer. I think he delivered pretty well, but he faded just a little bit as the race went on.
1.2 seconds was the gap between himself and indeed that was in comparison, by the way, to Stefan Kung, who unfortunately took a tumble. This man, however, went off extraordinarily well. Went off earlier than Wout van Aert, so this is out of sequence, but what a display.
He went off earlier. He didn't really bring it to the first time check. It was quite a long way. He was 20-25 seconds behind, but from then on, he just built and built and built. You know, you can see him just kind of attacking the way into the finish. We've seen riders arriving in this headwind section looking like they're on their knees, and he absolutely nailed it. He had, you know, loads of riding left, and I'm sure he could have gone quicker. I really am.
Well, slightly out of sequence here. They're showing the podium as it stands. That was Wout van Aert just failing by a very modest margin, 0.4 of a second to take over silver medal from Bissegger. But this man just out on course and in charge.
In a class of his own today. Just, you know, powerful, steady. You know, he's holding the position. We didn't move on the bike the whole day. He's just so stable. And it's, you know, it's his kind of course. It's a course for he's a 78-kilo bike rider. He's got a lot of power. His aerodynamics are good. He's been through that sort of BC system in British cycling where, you know, they're good at developing these kind of riders. But he absolutely nailed it when the chips were down on the big day.
Stefan Bissegger came to the line, and that was a handsome advantage. Of course, Wout van Aert went very close, but honestly, Joshua Tarling in charge.
De draaiende medailles worden uitgereikt door Enrico Della Casa, de president van de Europese wielerwinnende UEC. The jersey and the medals will be presented by Enrico Della Casa.
Well, they look like they're on the podium already, but they're yet to stand on those. Such a tall chap, I must say, Josh Tarling. Stands at 1.94 m.
That's the same height as me standing on your shoulders.
In third place, and winner of the bronze medal from Belgium, Wout van Aert.
Hugely popular character. a multi-tool, I think it's fair to say, in terms of cycling. He can do just about anything he wants.
He can. No, and it's so rare you kind of get a rider so multi-talented. Sprints, climb, it's just, you know, we're in a fortunate period. There's a crop of riders who are a bit like that at the minute, but he's so good at everything. Sickly.
Here's your man that really lived up to the defending champion title, to be fair. Came here determined and wanted to put behind him a disappointing time trial at La Vuelta, and he did.
He did. It's one of the rides of the day to kind of just get stronger through a ride like that, of course, like that today. Very, very impressive. Very impressive.
And European champion from Great Britain, Joshua Tarling.
Well, you're going to be hearing a lot more of that name. Took a bronze at the Worlds behind Ghana and Evenepoel. Now he's European champion, and by an enormous margin. That was a classy ride, to say the very least. Doesn't matter who's not here. He had to do it on the day, and boy, did he.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant ride. No, I'm sorry in a way that sort of Ghana and Evenepoel weren't here, because I'd love to have seen the race between the three of them for that, because I think he'd have been right in that mix. He's, you know, as a time trialist, he is that class of rider, and he's only 19 years old, and he's got the opportunity to get better and better in this specialism. If I were him, I'd be so excited about the Olympics next year. Joshua
Tarling, genius at work. You know, I think it would have mattered who turned up. He would have been our European champion. And at such a young age, as you remind us, it makes for a very, very long career, and let's hope it's prosperous. Tom Dumoulin handing out the flowers. Sure. I think it's a begonia. Well, he is big, 1m94, and he owns this as well.
May we have your attention, please, for the national anthem of Great Britain.
Well, we add our applause to Joshua Tarling. We're going to see a lot of this man.
Gaan we een speciale fotomoment krijgen. Step forwards. Nogmaals uw applaus voor nummers 1, 2 en 3.
Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, Joshua Tarling, as well, for just providing the entertainment today. It's been amazing. A new European champion, and the last time somebody came out of the junior ranks and indeed won the European title, it was Remco Evenepoel.
En hoop je allemaal morgen weer terug te zien op de tweede dag van het Europees kampioenschap na die geslaagde eerste dag. Gaan we morgen de mixed team relay krijgen als onderdeel. Nogmaals bedankt voor uw belangstelling, allemaal tot morgen. Tot tomorrow. Adomani. Adem.
I think we're going to speak to our European champion.
Well, Joshua, you're a bit of a surprise at the World Championship here. You came as a favorite, but you really smashed it.
Thank you.
Tell us how it went.
Oh, it was hard. I think the wind had changed to be crosswinds both ways, so there wasn't really a section to go easy. It was all about just holding a high power for most of the race and just hanging on. So yeah, this one hurt a lot more than the Worlds, but super happy. I think it went okay.
As I said, you came here as a bit of a favorite, a bit of change of status in that category. How was it for you? Obviously, you managed well the stress and the pressure.
Yeah, I think I have such a good team around me, and everyone puts 100% in. The pressure is from myself. Everyone else does so much for me that it takes all the outside pressure off. So any pressure I have is put on by myself, and I think think we've nailed it, so I'm super happy.
Yeah, that's a big improvement for you this year.
Thank you.
Tell us the feeling about this improvement.
Well, I don't really know. I try my best every time, and we work really well together, me and my coach, and BC also throw everything at it. So I don't really know. I think just thank you to everyone, and I couldn't do it without the people around me.
You raced for around a month before this TT. How did you prepare it?
I didn't race because I crashed, so healed for a bit, and then yeah, two and a half weeks solid in Andorra, some TT efforts, and yeah, we were good to go. Thank you.